Teachers, mentors, and coaches. So, what's the meaning, and is different than sports and corporations? So, Roxana and I decided this would be a fun topic because when you talk to a lot of people, they get confused in a corporate setting what a coach does. What does it mean? Where you go to coaching, ICF type of accreditations in schooling, and it's all pure coaching. What do I mean by that? They're not teaching, they're not mentoring, they're just doing pure coaching. And you learn that coaching skill. So we're going to dive into that today. And what's the difference between sports and versus corporations? Because we know a sports coach does all three.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why, actually, that's where we started the discussion from, because that's what we were wondering. Okay, so
And I know as an agile coach, we do all three as well.
Mhm.
And we always have to decide the difference. Now, the thing about it, when you look at all three aspects, that is actually the modern people leader as well. It's all getting blurry in truth. And so when you really think about a leader, it's almost like the team manager and the coach combined, right? On a corporate setting. Because you're running the business and you're also coaching people. Or you might just be the pure coach if you're a middle management, right? Now, let's just jump into this. Why is there a difference?
So I think, first of all, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the difference started because this is business related and because people started to see more, let's say, niches for each of these. And what I see a lot is people being very confused. So if you're a professional in this world, then chances are you know what a coach does, what a mentor does, what a teacher does, what a trainer does, and so on. If you're not a professional in this industry, you might end up feeling super confused about the terms, about what do you need, because that's what we're talking about. So for me as the end user of this, it's the whole point of it is to feel the need that I have. So where do I go? Who do I look for? Who's gonna help me with what? That's pretty confusing right now. And there's also the difference, just as you said, between ICF coaching, for instance, and all of the other coaches that are not necessarily ICF related or
life coaches that don't go through that body.
Coaches, business coaches, a lot of coaches that don't go into that category and don't need that certification. So for them, that's another discussion, because that leads to even more confusion, right?
Yeah.
So, and I feel that especially when you work with, for instance, I don't do business coaching. I don't do life coaching, but I do skills and career coaching, and I work with managers and small business CEOs. So when I work with them, for them, it's really, I have to explain, okay, so this is what I will be doing as your coach. And as your coach, I will be also teaching you a little bit, and I will also coach you into the steps, into the practical steps that you can take. And I think this is where you and I are also aligned in saying it's not about just one thing. It's about how can we bring a more holistic approach to this, because that is, why do we need that? We need that for the people that we're going to help. We need that for whoever needs a coach or a mentor or a trainer or a teacher, not for ourselves, because it's not about us. It's about the people who we serve, right? So if we're going to help them, how are we going to do that if we're going to separate that?
And it's really understanding how to balance it, right? Because every person is going to need different variations of these particular stances that you would have to move into when you are serving and helping others. It's even complicated when you're in a systems way, which the first system could be 2 people, 3 people, right? The numbers keep growing. Because what ends up happening a lot in Agile coaching is that we've learned the stances, right? Agile Coaching Institute from Lisa Adkins really pioneered and started this. You may need to advance your skill sets, right? So that's what we learned in coaching. We also have another standardization that's not there as well. Now, it's funny because if you really think of education teachers, I would say teaching, mentoring, and facilitation were probably the skill sets that I learned in education when I got my college degree. We probably didn't even realize that we were doing coaching with the children because we are helping develop them, shape their minds, and really think about being, who they are going to be in the future. And so we don't even really put a label on it on coaching. They probably now today have probably brought that back in, and they're actually teaching coaching with teachers. So they even have this dilemma. So when you say I'm a school teacher, you really are all these things embodying that I just described as well. So there's a lot of confusion, I would say, across the board when it comes to a lot of professions when you're dealing with developing and helping people, period.
Exactly.
And one of the things that I had a great conversation in one of my coaching pairs in my life coaching. And like we learned in life coaching that you're supposed to have all the answers. Well, you only know what you know. So there might be a little teaching time before you can actually move into a coaching stance so they can discover the answers. Or you might need a coach so they're open to even being taught, right? So it's really using that logic of where are you dancing with the individual or the group of individuals in that given time. And I think that's probably the most important thing. It's almost like the word coach. We were talking about like, what would that word be if we were to rename it? And it's funny because like I was reading a book last night and I loved how they were like that critical thinking. And he was like, I don't really like the word critical. And he said, you know what? We should be like ninja thinkers. And I was like, ooh, what a cool word, ninja thinkers.
That's a word. Yeah.
Yeah, right? And so when I think about teacher, mentor, coach, facilitator, and like this big clump, coach has now turned into those. It's almost like the ninja thinker, right? What is a coach today really in truth? What is a teacher, right? In an elementary school? Right? We embody all of these 3 aspects, or all 3, I should say all 4 really, because you facilitate too, right? And so like they're really just skill sets, but not necessarily the label of what you actually truly do. It's almost like there has to be another name. I'm looking and going, how do we merge all those words together?
Yeah. And plus add the facilitator one in there.
Yeah.
And the trainer one in there. And then you get a whole, it's like, I don't know what one word would be, but I feel like.
And then you get consultant in there too. So when you go in businesses,
exactly, right?
They also like to be consulted as well sometimes.
Yeah.
It's like a combo.
It is a combo.
But I like what and so I like what you said. So let's kind of like go back to something that you said I think is important. Is you said I have to explain before. And I think that's the most important thing. I would say even if you're a school teacher, right? Any of these positions where you're embodying all of these skill sets, we have to come from a space where we're all on the same page of the same understanding of intent as well. When you go into this engagement and you guys are working with each other or with a group of people, right? One to many.
Yeah.
And
it's the expectations, right? What can you expect from me and what I can help you with?
Now, I would say that sometimes when we're brought in situations, it's almost like a forced weird that we have to pause and explain this.
Yeah.
But in truth, it's almost like before you even start the engagement, hey, we need to explain what I'm here for, what's the expectation and what my intentions are and what it could look like, depending on the situation. I think we owe that as with our clients, and I'm going to say the word clients loosely, because even a student is a client.
Exactly. Right? Everybody's a client, as we know, actually.
Yeah. And so we have to come to the table with a set of expectations and explanation and making sure they truly understand and allowing the dialogue of questioning, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because
and it's also what I'm finding, and maybe you find the same thing, especially with coaching. It comes to, because a lot of people have some either preconceived ideas or bad previous experience with previous coaches, and then you have to not only explain what you can help with, but also work on letting them know you're not the kind of coach that they had the bad experience with, and this is what you can do. So a lot of the time it comes to just that, really making the case for yourself as why you are a good coach and not a bad kind of coach.
And regardless of what stance that you have, this is probably maybe the most controversial thing that I'm going to bring up. Of course, we always bring that up. That's the whole point of our show.
Yeah.
Is that the willing and wanting and committed.
Mm-hmm.
So in each of the situation, you're going to be brought upon differently. But here's the thing. If they're not willing, right there, you have no way to move forward.
Yeah. That's so true. And we know that this is why things don't work. This is why whenever you're sending somebody, and this happens a lot in companies, in corporations, right? They're sending people over to training, to coaching, to these kind of development interventions, right? But those people, they're being sent there. They don't want to be there. So imagine, like, you have a kid who's in a class that he or she doesn't want to take. It won't give any results.
Yeah, well, that's why I probably spent most of my time, and I mathematically designed my classroom where I really didn't care about grades and I didn't believe in them, in truth. I was probably light years beyond of what they're actually moving towards now. I mean, other countries are moving more, I think, more faster than here in the US when it comes to grading. They don't have grades. They look a little bit differently now.
Yeah.
From some of my conversations of some of my friends in Beijing. But anyhow, I designed because my intent and expectation was I wanted them to have an appreciation of science. I also wanted to give them life skills and practices, which was my post on LinkedIn, by the way, today, where I wanted them to at least walk away with that, because I know their whole entire life that's going to have value and benefit regardless of what they choose in their path. That was my intent as a teacher, in truth.
Yeah. And if you as a teacher, so again, it's the intent, right? And that's where we start from. And that's what we're saying is, let's bring them all together, because this is happening anyway. And right now, especially right now, we all talk about creativity, innovation, adaptability, flexibility, all of that. So all of that comes with being able to also be adaptable and adapt this to what people need right now. And what people need right now, they don't need an encyclopedia. They don't need someone who's an encyclopedia. They don't need a know-it-all. They need someone who can teach and train and facilitate that learning and guide them and coach them and everything together. Because and you look at, and we talked in our show about generations and how they are motivated and how they learn and what they expect from the workplace. I think this is the best way to incorporate all that, is to bring bits and pieces of what all of these people do and make more holistic development and transformation programs. That's what I'm saying with using all of these concepts.
And one of the things is getting back to the willing and committed. We know that in a professional coaching situation for, let's just say, sports, those people are committed and willing, because if they're not committed, most likely they're not going to be successful and they're not going to be there very long, right? In some of those situations. Or if you're hiring somebody on a one-on-one basis, they probably won't take you on as a client if you don't have skin in the game.
Yeah.
What ends up happening in agile transformations, agile coaching, they're really bringing you in for the process. And so you're really coming into with a stance of teacher and consultant, and then mentoring them. The coaching piece probably is I would call it a slide in, because even the leader themselves don't even understand what that is. And they're most of the time not even open to be coached by an agile coach. The agile coach is really brought in to help everyone that is below them, not coach them. They probably want to go to an executive coach or somebody else by title to actually help them. It's really the stigma of agile coaching is not for me. It's for the people that report to me. And a lot of you out there that are agile coaches, you understand what I'm saying. And
now I have a lot to say about that. And you know that because I'm frustrated because I work with a lot of managers, right? And they are there at this point. So they want to learn how to manage their team better. They don't necessarily have a scrum master there with them. But if they did, that would be the whole point, to have somebody who also educates them how to be better managers, how to be better leaders, because that's how they grow as well, right? I mean, that's the whole point. And what you said is absolutely for me, that is the essence of everything, because you don't need somebody who comes in and works in development for the process. You need, process too, but what you need them for is to bring results, connect them to results. Because if we go to your analogy with sports, why a tennis player would hire a great tennis coach is to bring them the results. Yes, the coach will take me to the process. Yes, they will take me through all the mindset work and everything, but because I want to win. So the result is that.
So let's get back to results, because I like where you're going with this. So in coaching, the number one thing that we start with is creating an achievable outcome before we start that engagement. You'll learn that in professional coaching, right? And then you start helping them from that achievable outcome. They start creating milestones and then plan of actions. So each milestone, you start breaking it down, right? We even do that actually in Agile process, which is kind of funny. So what ends up happening, and I think it's naturally there for even if we, talk about like in education, because they have an end, right? They have a time box, and they know that really ultimately you're helping them get the A right now. Some of them. Now there might be other different outcomes as education is becoming more evolutionary in learning about achievable outcomes, because there's actually no difference between creating OKRs for education than it would be for business in truth.
Yeah.
So if we think about knowing what our outcomes are, now that ties into a lot of what we talk about, and then what we're talking about in the webinar tomorrow that you're joining me with when it comes to Scrum Masters. Yes, you'll get the link later on in this live event.
I'll put it on here just Because you
So
mentioned it.
everything is outcome based, is my point.
Mhm.
And when we have that clarity of what the outcome is, now things start to come together.
Yeah.
Because your outcome is related to the results that you're getting. What happens a lot is that, especially with agile coaches, we come into a setting and the outcomes aren't very clear. We're almost having to make them up. Because when we come into an engagement with the leaders, we're not really starting right there and defining them all the time for whatever reason. But the thing is expectation. You do not go into a coaching engagement by contract. So any of you that are ICF, life coaches, right? I even learned it in NLP, or even people that are coming in for a contractual engagement and just in general for a business, there's always a set expectation of what you're buying. That expectation of what you're buying should be, hey, our first thing we're going to do is actually create outcomes. So we actually know what the end goal is, right? Yeah. You might not necessarily do that before your contract engagement. Maybe that's why some people get like assessments or pre-discovery things that they might pay that time for when it comes to consultants. And then those outcomes come, and then you can do the second contract, right?
Yeah.
And make a contract with outcomes. But my whole point is coaching, especially in a corporate setting, because that's what we're really talking about, it gets fuzzy. In sports, we all know what the outcome is. They want to win the goddamn game. I mean, hello. It's so obvious. They want to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So what is it for a corporation? It has to be very clear. We want to go fast. What does that mean?
But where? I mean, if I don't know where I'm going, why would I want to go fast? Why would I even be interested in driving the car? Because I don't know where I'm going. Like, tell me where I'm supposed to go, and then I might figure it out by myself. Or if I need help, I'm going to ask for help. I'm going to ask for a drive. But anyway, I need to know where I'm going.
So let's break it down what sports coaches do. And then let's compare it to corporate coaching. Let's have some fun with that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the basics, and you'll help fill some of the blanks in for me. I'll go by my channeling of my husband always watching sports. Not like I do sports, okay? I'll admit that, folks. But we all know that they have to be an expert in the sport that they're coaching. So if you don't know football, soccer, football is another. Soccer, baseball, et cetera, you're not going to be a sports coach if you have no idea how the game is played. Correct?
Yeah.
Check.
Correct.
So that's one. The other thing is you have to have the ability to be able to teach it to others, the game.
Yep. So again, checked, because you need to have that experience, right? You need to know what you're talking about, in other words.
So
right?
I like where you're going. So in the teaching and mentoring, teaching would be, I need to be able to understand it to teach it back. Mentoring means I have the experience to walk you through what that looks like. So most coaches, they have played the game and they become coaches, right? A lot of them in the sports coaches, they are
absolutely, yeah,
right. Like they used to be gymnasts. They used to be skating professionals themselves, and then they turned into coaches,
right? Tennis players, basketball players, whatever, right? So yes, they do have that experience.
They played it at some point in their life.
Yeah.
And some point in their life, either they got injured or they realized they were a better coach than they were an actual player, right? Or they retired and they decided they want to continue in the game, right? Who knows? Is Tom Brady going to be a coach one day? You know? So
let's ask him.
Now, so we got the teacher, mentor, coach down.
Yep.
Now, let's talk about what that looks like in sports. So we hire a coach. You got a bunch of players. What does that look like? So one of the things that they have to be able to do is build trust and rapport with the team. The team has to want to follow them. also in a professional setting, the people need to be committed and wanted to be there. So like even if we look at a high school football team, they do have tryouts, correct? A lot of even the extracurricular ones, they all have tryouts, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those people are, I would say, interested. They're probably willing and they're committed to it because they are willing to go through the process of trying out. Check.
Yes, because they're also either they're passionate about it, they know they have a talent, and they know where that's going to take them. They know what the end result or the expected end result is going to be, right?
Yeah.
They have something that they expect and they know what that might be. So they're committed, but they're committed not because somebody else tells them to be committed. They're committed because they decided, hey, I'm going to commit to this. Because the ones who aren't committed, they're going to, at some point, they quit because it's not for them.
So now we got that piece. Then the other part of the day in the life would be where they set expectations of where they're going, who they want to be, right? What kind of team they are. And so if they are a high school team, they're probably wanting to win the nationals, the team, whatever you want to call it. See, this is where I'm start flailing because I'm not a sports person. But
they want to win it anywhere.
But anyways, they have a destination. They have a goal. It's very clear. Now, the coach already knows that if they take that goal, say, for example, they're wanting to go to the state championship, say that's their ultimate goal. They're going to break that down and going, what does that look like before we actually get there? And before they actually get there, they probably have to win the regionals. Then, okay, what did we do to get to the regionals? And then they'll work it back and say, we have to win our division. Hope I'm working here. Am I? So, but
I don't know, but it sounds good to me. So
yeah. And then they work it back and say, we have to win all our games to win our district, right? So it's the same thing in organizations where we have to have the big goal, and the milestones, and be able to work it back, because our coaching is all related to helping get to each one of those milestones, and also helping them co-create the actions. So as we are, and they're going to have to inspect and adapt, right? They have to adapt, because if you lost the game number 5, and you need to win game number 6, so you stay and win the district, they're going to have to go back and figure out and pivot and work and work with the team and train. Now, a lot of times the coach, I would assume, probably works with other people and collaborates and works with the team how to be able to do that, right? It's teamwork. So the coach, it's not just the coach winning the game.
Exactly. It's the whole team. And it's not just the coach, it's not just the player, or in individual sports, or it's not just individual players on a team, it's everybody, right? And that's what I think we miss in corporations.
That clarity.
Don't have this, and that clarity and the system. I mean, we're still sending people. This is mind blowing to me. We're just still sending people to training and coaching, but then the whole system, the ecosystem does not exist to support them. So you don't have what you have in sports, all of the psychologist, the coach, the trainer, the physiotherapist, everybody who contributes, the nutritionist, everybody who contributes to the success of that team or that particular player. You don't have that in corporations. You only send people, and basically what you're telling them is go fix your problem. Because, by the way, you have a problem. Maybe you had no idea that I thought you had that problem. But hey, I'm sending you because I think you have a problem. And typically it's because people are being sent to development programs because they have problems, not because they need to grow. So again, it's the negative focus of, go and get fixed and then come back and perform. But how am I going to perform? First of all, a training is not going to fix me. Not even coaching is going to fix me, or is going to take a while. But then I perform in the same environment, in the same ecosystem where I don't have the support, where nothing changed. Only I changed. And then we're surprised that people leave the company. Well, that's why they leave the company, because they changed, the company didn't.
So I'm going to repeat this, and maybe while I talk it, maybe put this in the captions, because you know how we're both visually and auditory. Most people like to see what we say, and I think this one's important.
Okay.
Basically, what we're doing is we're recapping. So we talked about teacher, mentor, being a coach, right?
Yep.
We also talked about expectations. Mm-hmm. We also talked about clear, achievable outcomes. Mm-hmm. And a strategic plan.
Yep.
And our last one that you did so wonderful in, I love it, ecosystem to support.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, we have something here.
And this is why when we talk about the difference between sports and corporations, this is where Roxana and I are channeling and going towards. There is something that we can learn to understand where our gaps are in corporate world that we need to start filling. Yeah. That sports coaching, why it's more successful in the results, maybe some than in others. But if you even notice another thing, like in sports coaching, they do adapt and learn and pivot their players. In corporations, mm-hmm. They don't really think about where you and I focus on people strategies. So I would even put another part of coaching is helping with people strategies, because that coach is helping with the people strategies as well. Mm-hmm. So that's another one.
Strategic plans, people strategies. Yeah.
Yep.
I think this is important because that brings you the holistic approach, right? Because you cannot, they're all linked together. Right? You cannot.
Yeah, we need to document this. This is good stuff.
We need, exactly. And I think, but basically, so for everybody here, this is what we talk about every time we meet. It's just that during the live sessions, that's why sometimes these captions just appear during our live sessions, because that's when we have.
It's not planned.
Also, it's not planned, and sometimes
we like it organic.
Yeah, exactly.
And here's the thing.
We sharing know that with you.
The more relaxed and Roxana have fun, and this is a scientific fact, the more relaxed you are and enjoying yourself, you actually will be you'll get more creativity, because everybody is creative, by the way. It just looks different. Someone might be more creative on their implementation, creative in this. Mm-hmm. Roxana and I are highly creative when it comes to ideas and strategic thinking. Right? Like we connect the dots with our ideas. And so right now, we just made this up. Literally.
Yeah, we did. And which is great, because I think we connected a lot of the dots from previous shows as well. So by the way, if you haven't watched them, go on our YouTube channel and watch everything that we talked about. But I think especially for today's world, what we're saying is we all want to think different, do things differently, because we need to adapt. That's what we talk about when we talk about adapting. What are we adapting? We're not adapting to the old, we're adapting to the new. So how can you do that if you keep doing the same thing the same way you used to do it over and over again? It's not going to change anything. So what we're saying is, you want to bring more creativity, innovation, diversity, and the different kind of creative way of working and doing things. This is how we see that. This is how we see that we can accomplish that by bringing this all together, because there's no the strategic planning, the people strategies, the ecosystem, the coaching, the mentoring, the training, everything needs to be connected if we want to see clear results, if we want to see people who are engaged and motivated, if we want to see the business growing and adapting. Because what does that mean? The business is the people who work in the business. If the people cannot adapt and grow, the business cannot adapt and grow, because people working on the business make that happen.
And I haven't gotten my ORSC certification, which I'm like, do I really need it when I have so many other friends I can pull in? So I was actually talking to one of my ORSC certification coaches. I'm one of those people where I'm starting to think more strategically, going, do I need it, or I just consult and work with my other coach friends that are, because they don't have the other things I have. I'm like, just trying to be smart here. Anyways, my point is, they always talk about systems. We live in a world of systems. And so when you think about coaching, we're going into a system, and we almost need to do a system audit to make sure these things that you're seeing in front of you in these captions, those are put in place or connected, because this coach, it's almost like if you had an image of the coach standing in the middle and you started drawing string to all of these things of teaching, mentoring, coaching, expectations and stuff, there will always be someone that we are actually connected to. And it might be someone that we're connected to that needs to support us, or they need to pair with us. So when we're teaching and mentoring, we all the time need to be paired with somebody that's actually going to take this knowledge into the company for sustainability. So we never want to do something different. Whenever I am working, I always recommend, I don't always get my way, but I always say the person needs to like shadow me, pair with me, because they basically need to soak up my brain, so to speak. Yeah. And so they can take this and start running with it, because I'm Nanny McPhee. I'm not going to be there forever. And so everything that I know, I need to expound as much knowledge I can in the given time that I am with them. So again, ecosystem. And I can go through every single one of these things. There's always somebody within that organization I'm going to be connected to if we're doing it in the smart, innovative way that's going to give you the best results. Yeah. Now this is what lacks today when we talk about coaching engagements. Now, I'm not going to fault the businesses, because we probably have our due part is the people that are selling the contracts and selling that. They also have the due diligence to educate them, because again, you only know what you know, and these people only know they need your help. So they also might need your guidance on how to set what we just showed you up.
Yeah. I think you just beautifully said it, because I think the whole point of a coach, or of a coach basically, but also consultants, right? So let's put everybody under this consulting umbrella. The whole point of consulting is for those people to not need you anymore. After a while, they need, right? They need to be self-sufficient. They need to be able to function without you. So the goal of coaches, trainers, consultants, that should be the end goal, for those people to not need me, because now they have everything that they need so they can function.
And that's the point of why they are expensive. A lot of people are like, oh, these people are right? No, because look at all the things that they should be helping you, and that helps you to where you are sustainable, that you can do things on your own. Exactly. That price, it's priceless. So think about a life coach that's helping you have a better life.
Yeah.
That's priceless.
That is priceless. And it's also, that doesn't mean that that the life coach will be there for life with you. No, it doesn't mean that. It means
No, the
that
whole
you
point
will
is
be
you pay that money, but it's
right.
supposed to be a short term. And so
Exactly.
the better
So
the better you start the engagement with these things in mind, you are going to get your money's worth.
absolutely. And I think this is where you're absolutely right. Where some of the people in this industry, they're trying to make their clients more dependent on them on a longer term than normally needed. And that is painful. And I think that's painful basically for everybody long term, because it's a lose-lose situation, right? Because it doesn't benefit even me as a coach. That doesn't benefit me because they're not going to be happy. How is anyone going to be happy in this?
And it's a vicious cycle on
It
that, right?
is. It is. And it's unfair as well.
You
right?
have some people coming in with the opposite of that intent. They don't want that, but they can't convince the client about all these things that we're talking about. And so they're like, okay, it's your money, whatever. And then they just let it happen because that's the business. It goes round and round. And it's awful to say, but this is the truth. And then one day the client wakes up and they realize, now I've actually been in coaching myself, and I would say probably the three, maybe a couple things. Yeah, it was great. And then I realized I didn't have clarity and I didn't put things in line. And is that the coach's fault? But I paid more into it because I didn't have my act together. But this is that cycle where you only know what you know, and sometimes you're gonna have to fail and suck it up. And yeah, it's almost like going to Vegas knowing that if you're gambling, you're not expecting that money back.
Yeah.
Because if you are moving into territory that you don't know, there has to be some kind of sunk cost into that.
Yeah.
But getting back to the different people out there that are purposely doing this, this is the part where you as a company can get wiser. And this is why we're talking about this today. Because the more that you have knowledge, is what I used to teach my students in science, is that you need to be intuitive. You need to be able to want to know more, because out in this world, people are going to take advantage of you. You can't tell me that all of these consulting companies haven't figured that out and they've learned how to drain you as a business.
That's a very good one. Yeah, I think so too. And I think exactly. And this is one of the reasons why that creates a lot of frustration. And that's why people don't trust consultants anymore.
And I'm gonna say something about this too. I don't care if you're making hand over fist as a company. Good for you. But where else could that money go to? Right? We talk about charity. We talk about giving back to the world. We talk about, a lot of, like, you'll see layoffs in companies. And, there's a lot of things that you probably, if you thought about how you are doing something, you might change your tune. And here's the funny thing about it. Now, I don't even fault all that. Because in school, when it comes to financial intelligence, not a lot of us have learned that. And so you see these practices being emulated, even running as a business, in truth. A lot of wasteful spending.
Yeah, a lot of wasteful funding that doesn't even imagine what results you're missing, what results you're not getting.
But the beauty is, because now we're going more outcome driven and value, and we're actually measuring with OKRs and KPIs and all these other types of measurements, they're getting smarter and wiser, which I love. So we're moving in the positive direction. So as coaching, we can align all these things that you guys are seeing here on this caption to show how we can help them.
And how we can bring all of that to the table and see how that can be done, and how that can be helpful for different teams, different departments,
and win the Super Bowl.
Exactly. And win it, because that's at the end of the day, that's what we're talking about. We want to see some results. If you don't see the results, then why are we even talking about it? Right.
And what happens with coaches when they don't see results? A new coach comes next season.
Right.
But
Yeah.
but my point is that at least we know we have something to measure to. We have the progress through. We know what we actually are trying to get to.
Mm-hmm.
And these things, as we're trying to compare, getting back to the difference between sports and corporations, we're getting there.
I think so too.
But I would say that all the things that we listed here, and there might even be a couple more because we made this up on the fly, but I think this is the good enough, is that we're not doing all these things right now. And I think we could do a better job at that.
Yeah, I think we're doing a lot of this. It's just that we do them separately instead of bringing that all together, so that we can actually see the benefits, and we can see the different way of doing things that actually gives us better results. So I think this is it's not that it's not happening, it's just not happening together.
To wrap this up, since we're closing out here, is that
exactly.
This is the difference between sports and corporate coaching. Is it's more holistic in sports.
Yep.
And it's fragmented today in corporations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so the question is, what are we going to do to make it more holistic?
And how are we going to even start that conversation? So you and I started the conversation. Basically, what we suggest is that moving on, people can think about the holistic approach rather than just the fragmented approach, and just by, still keep doing things the old way. Because I'm not saying that's bad. I think we can just learn from that and build on it instead of being stuck in the old way of doing things.
We always have to evolve. That's just the way things are.
Exactly.
Because guess what? So, getting uncomfortable and changing things is part of growing.
Yeah. Okay. So wrapping things up, and I want to say, I put the webinar earlier, but here's another event where we're going to unwrap some of this stuff now, and talk about some of the things that we talked about today.
This is the first kickoff of the Master Your Impact webinar series. And so we started with Scrum Masters. In truth, it's because that's how I started this journey when I got back into Agile, was with Scrum Masters. What I realized, I'm like, wait a minute. There's more to it for me. And so this is all going to align with Agile people strategies and in relation to impact and growth and development. And so this is the first thing in the Master Your Impact series. We're going to talk about Scrum Masters, and we're going to talk about Scrum Masters in different dimensions. We know that it's increasing right now in Agile after last year. We know that companies are really trying to upskill. We have all the statistics on that. They're trying to, deal with that. And then we also know that the teaming aspect is growing dynamically. There's a lot of more distributed teaming. So we have a lot of multidimensional things happening nowadays. Things are changing at a rapid rate. Scrum Masters, they are essential to a lot of this. And that's what we're going to dive into. We're going to talk about the Scrum Masters just itself, kind of some things that looking around on recruiting. How do you internally place a Scrum Master? What does it look like when you're outsourcing, either outsourcing the teams, the Scrum Master, or both? We're also going to look at it to scaling. What does that look like on a scaling perspective? And then also professional development. What do you do when you grow and develop them? And then what is the career path trajectory for a Scrum Master? So this is going to be just the first introduction of really cracking open, because what we're actually talking about is probably more than just Scrum Master when it comes to Agile people strategies and how impact aligns. And here wait for it, outcomes. So we're always relating to what businesses care about, which is business outcomes, and also measurable business outcomes to get results and how impact aligns with that. So we're trying to take the business hat. If I am a leader of a company, we are talking to you.
Yeah. That's what I wanted to say for all of my connections here, watching this, whenever you watch it, because a lot of you are managers or small business CEOs. That is absolutely relevant for you as well, because it's not just the Scrum Masters who are agile. Basically, what we're saying is we need to move towards an agile approach holistically, and you can also become a sort of an agile manager, agile kind of CEO, where you have this approach that a Scrum Master can bring. And you can also understand what are some points where you can bring the right people in your team or in your organization, how you can do that and how you can align them to the outcomes that you have as a team, as an organization, as a small business. So if you're watching this, go ahead and register for the webinar, because that's for you as well. And you're getting the agile point of view, non-agile point of view. And we have another speaker who comes in from the recruiting point of view.
Yeah.
So you have 3 points of view about making this successful for you.
Thank you for bringing that up, because I purposely did that because there were 2 things of criteria that I need. People to understand the GC index. And 2, I didn't want it to be just an agile Kool-Aid conversation where I am so close to it. I really love how John and Roxana can separate themselves from it because they don't have attachment. They're disassociated already. And we have a problem, and I think all of us are like that. When we're so passionate and close to something, sometimes we can't see the forest through the trees, and that's why we need a different perspective. So I'm really, really excited that the 2 of them are joining me tomorrow.
Yeah, so I'm super excited about this as well, because I know I'm going to learn a lot myself from this webinar. So I can't wait. So go ahead, people, go and register. And
Agile is coming everywhere. I mean, it started in technology. It's in education. It's in HR. It's in marketing. Yeah. It's basically a way of working and mindset. And so if you haven't heard about it yet, if you work in a teaming environment, it probably will come your way one day, because there's a thing called business agility, if you haven't heard of it. So Agile is just kind of permeating. It just might look differently, when it gets to you, but it's all very related.
Exactly. Okay. All right. So see you all tomorrow for the webinar. And next week, we are talking, hold on, about whether there is any difference between personal development and professional development and personal transformation. And we have a special guest with us next week.
Yeah. So JJ is someone that works with entrepreneurs. She actually started her own business. And so she comes from where she works with entrepreneurs that are really, the CEOs of really starting companies. So she's going to come with that particular perspective. We love when people come to our show with different perspectives when we talk about topics. So this is a plug for any of you that would love to come on our show and talk about some of the topics of changing the future of work. Right? Game-changing work. That's the name of our show. Reach out, Anna or myself, Veronica, and we'll see if there is a good fit for one of our show topics. We plan out a couple months in ahead, so we always have a list to work from.
Yeah, exactly. We love different approaches.
We love people.
And innovation and people. And
that's why we love special guests to come on, because it creates different dynamics and stuff. So I'm really looking forward to having JJ come.
Yeah, me too. All right. So that's it for today. And see you next time.